Oh, hello there. Yes, well, good grief. We're hurtling our way out of Christmas, although no doubt you slackers are going to be staying at home rather than being productive for the glories of, probably Western civilization. I mean, if you can't really think of anything, it's worthwhile just plonking for the West. Anyway, yesterday saw the astounding non-event that is that Reform Party now have more members than the Conservatives, which I got me really thinking about the very nature of chucking 25 quid at a man that goes to fox hunts. Think about that for a moment. Man of the people, Nigel that he is, Nigel Farage, think about that, goes to fox hunts, okay? Illegal events where the aristocracy show off their contempt for whoever's in charge, because after all they know best. Anyway, I'm sure that he was just going there because it suits his barber style. Another dead giveaway. I must admit I do have a barber bomber jacket, but it's a bomber jacket, mate. All right. Anyway, so I thought we'd remind ourselves of the reformed constitution, which they voted for recently. Under the new constitution, I think it was back in July, the party's board and leader are responsible for policy setting with input from members at conference. Yes, just like the Tories, you see, you get to vote for what they want. Yeah, all this for 25 quid a head. What a bargain. Yeah, they'll tell you what the ideas are, and you can rubber stamp them. Yay! But members will be able to remove Farage or any other party leader in a no confidence vote. Well, that sounds better and like it might mean something, so let's go on. A vote can be triggered if 50% of all members write to the chairman requesting a motion of no confidence. 50% of all of them. There you go. That's really going to happen, isn't it? Not that they're setting a high bar. They'll come back to that phrase. Reform MPs can also force a vote if 50 of them or 50% of them write to a chairman requesting one, but this only applies if there are more than 100 Reform MPs in Parliament. A high bar. Yes, indeed. So in other words, you can't get rid of him. You can't get rid of him. Just like real life, you can't get rid of him. Besides which, it doesn't really matter anyway because he owns the party along with Richard Tice. Still, they've got more members. Yes. Anyway, if you want me to tell me your opinion, I will do, but you have to send me 15 quid. I might as well be a knock-off Reform Party. After all, my ideas are equally valid to theirs, except, of course, mine are rooted more in ordinary people's everyday lives rather than, well, being concerned about fox hunting. Anyway, moving on to people that are completely removed from reality brings us neatly once again to Lawrence Fox, who's decided to dig his heels in and wrote a very long tweet, link down below, about how right he is, because of course he is always right. I don't think I've ever seen Lawrence Fox ever say anything about him ever having any doubts about anything ever, because he also belongs to that particular class of people. Anyway, just picking out this particular chunk. It's like this, Supertensky woman. Yeah, another having a go at a woman, because that's always a good look, Loza. She just spits bile at anyone she doesn't agree with. Has no boundaries at all where she will go. Wishing people dead in plane crashes, dragging people's children into a row. Such an angry young woman. What does one do with that level of fury? Yes, imagine a woman being angry at Loza Fox. How unreasonable. Anyway, you can make up your own mind about how right he is. You can read his tweets, but apparently he comes from a long line of very reasonable people who can sit around the dinner table passing the port and politely disagree. But apparently there are some women out there that are quite uppity. It's not a class-based thing, you understand. No, I'm sure of that. Anyway, which brings us neatly perhaps onto the level of absurdity that we have to go to today, because I was really taken aback by Connor Tomlinson, who, as I always am, but I always think of Connor Tomlinson also in class-based terms because he represents exactly that sort of suburban non-entity from the 1970s that I used to bump into in my life every single day. And they are people who with absolute certainty of their convictions in the world. I know I might be describing myself here. Hold on. They are people with absolute certainty of their convictions of the world, and yet at the same time things just don't add up. Now, I freely admit on vast areas of things that I don't know, but Connor, like Loza before him, of course, isn't in that game at all. He always knows best about everything, even though he's only 12 and a half. Anyway, let's move on and think about what he was saying, because he was basically reacting to this tweet of Elon Musk's. It comes down to this: if you want America to win, or do you want America to win, or do you want America to lose? If you force the world's best talent to play for the other side, America will lose. End of story. Because apparently Elon Musk thinks it's a very, very, very good idea if immigrants, skilled immigrants, right, proper people, come to America and help him to win against people that he doesn't like, which is presumably, I think, most of people like me and, by extension, you, because you're watching this now, traitor. Anyway, let's listen to Connor and neatly summating all of those things that I absolutely despise about home county racists. Anyway, here we go. Unfortunately, Elon Musk is making a mistake. Of course he is, in thinking most immigrants, even unskilled H-1B1 visas, are industrious, intelligent, and incentive-driven as himself. Yes, because those are the words that I always think of with Elon Musk as well. Industrious, intelligent, and incentive-driven. Driven, certainly. Industrious? Debatable. Intelligent? Yes, indeed. You see, Connor has hit onto this brilliant idea that some people are slightly different, but they are different in generic ways that has to do with history, culture, and genes. Okay? Many of the undesirable consequences of immigration policy are due to poor theory of mind. I think he's having a go at him for being autistic, which is my territory, Connor. Anyway, most people are not rational, individualistic economic actors. That is a mindset unique to weird, don't know why it's in capitals, liberal Europeans and North Americans. Yes, rational, individualistic economic actors. Except, Connor, they're not. They're human beings. And rational, individualistic economic actors only ever applies in economic models, not in real life. And you are a prime example of that, as indeed is Elon Musk, because he is a man very driven by his own internal emotions, which is why you can't use the word cis on that free speech bastion that is Twitter. Most of the world think of themselves as members of clans, castes, cultures, and civilizations completely apart from our own. Yes, we did come across that earlier, of course, with Nigel Farage, who's standing there out in the countryside, terrorising foxes. Let's think about that. Members of clans, castes, cultures, and civilizations completely apart from our own. Yes, indeed. I mean, I actually like foxes, but that's because I live in a city, and it's something that country folk just won't ever understand. That's a very old 1970s, 1980s joke. See if you can remember who said that. Anyway, they see nothing wrong with fraudulent qualifications, cutting corners, or nepotism as long as it advantages their family or identity group. Yes, I mean, you could never apply that to a group of people like, I don't know, almost all of the Conservative Party, the Reform Party, the Labour Party, the entire establishment centred on a king. Can you? No, it's a uniquely, I hate that word, Western thing. Meritocracy, here we go again, is a uniquely Western, probably English, way of doing things. It isn't the way that most of the world does business. Yes, meritocracy, a phrase that was coined basically in the 1950s and was brought to prominence by right-wing sociologists. It's meaningless tosh, as we well know. I will point you to aforementioned establishment, the Conservative Party, and indeed the fact we still have a king whose only qualification is that he came out of his mum first. Nigel Farage was born into an upper middle class family, or at least certainly very middle class family, and has remained there. Meritocracy? Very, very debatable. He's not realistically shifted one iota, which is why he tends to crawl up far more rich and powerful people's, backsides, doesn't he? Because that's the nature of the man, and he's more than happy to, Not really believe in meritocracy, is he? Because he does like to appoint people around him who are exactly like him. Not that he's a racist. I mean, if you're a brown-skinned person with a great deal of money to invest in for all Reform PLC, he'll happily take it. But that's because ultimately he is a man with very, very few real principles. Anyway, they simply do not think like we do. And so, when imported en masse, bit of French there, I think, begin to recreate the cultural and economic conditions of their hosts' countries. Yes, them, whoever they are, don't think like us, whoever we are. And again, this is Connor doing the classic thing about thinking that there's such a thing as being Western or English. Again, how do they think differently to me? Well, Connor's argument is, well, they're a bit lazy and they like crime. Yeah, I'm saying, you'd be wrong to think he was racist on that assumption, but of course, I'm not lazy and I don't do crime. Anyway, they simply... so the immigration debate is a clash of anthropologies. Are human beings rational economic actors? No. Right? Are they primarily cultural? Yes, because you can't not be. And will this culture influence the way they act in the economy? Yes, by definition. But if you accept so that the economy isn't rational, Connor, which you have yet to do and probably never will do, you might want to look up the reason why we have bull and bear markets and the reason why we have stock market crashes. It might help to get your head round why economics is a cultural rather than a rational phenomena. But of course, you see, Connor has done that classic thing that right-wingers do by believing earnestly that they have found the solution. Yes, it's Milton Friedman and Ayn Rand, isn't it? Another economic sensible actor that she was. Dear God. Oh, cultures are the property of peoples. Okay, and an economy is how people work and trade in a place over time. Okay, therefore economics is influenced by culture. Yeah, because our culture now is quite different economically than it was, a long time ago. And if you think about it, logically, what Connor Tomlinson here is doing is coming up with stunningly original ideas that Antonio Gramsci was writing about 100 years ago. He was the leader of the Italian Communist Party. Might help to actually read him, and you could get your head round, first of all, modernism, and then on the back of that, you could maybe understand postmodernism and why it is that us lefties are actually very interested in things like culture. Welcome to the boat, albeit a bit late, or probably quite a small dinghy, I think, probably on choppy waters. Anyway, importing thousands of culturally distant people into America will not change the people through economics, but rather change the American economy and culture through imported peoples. Which begs the question, historically, as to when was this time when America was America before immigrants went there, Connor? Leave that particular question hanging, because obviously if I ask that question, it makes everything that you've written look like idiotic tripe. Now, tricky, isn't it? Imagine coming out with idiotic tripe and being historically inept. Yeah? When exactly was it that immigrants went to America and didn't change it? Yeah? I mean, ballpark decade, somewhere between 1580 and now. Yeah? Love to hear about that. Love to hear when the Americans adopted a rational player economic model. That was something that wasn't cultural. Don't know. And there you have it, folks. Anyway, a shining example of first-rate tosh. I mean, loads and loads and loads of uniquely English insights there which no one else could possibly come up with. And this is why I spit bile at people like Connor, because when you think about it, it's the kind of thing that you earnestly believe when you're 12 or 13. I've met lots of kids like this. They earnestly believe that they've found the answer. Sometimes it's in the Communist Manifesto. Sometimes, but most of the time it isn't. Most of the times it's in a Prager University video that they think they found the answer. No, I'm afraid not. And the thing I dislike intensely about this, of course, is that it seeks to rationalise nasty racism, which is a cultural phenomenon and can be an economic one as well, Connor, can't it? Yes, when you put those things into social policy law. Still, That's the boy from Sidcup for you, eh? Row upon row upon row of identical semi-detached houses with row upon row of semi-detached identical people living in them. Yes, uniquely Western nonsense, if you like. Do have a lovely day, won't you? Remember, don't be like Connor. Actually do think for yourself. Think, how much of this tosh am I being fed by a bloke that goes and hunts little animals for pleasure? Do have a lovely one.